Phone lines at the station were temporarily suspended. The Hong Kong Island Regional Crime Unit is following up on the case. Stephanie Choi, TVB News.
The Hong Kong Medical Association today proposed to shorten the internship period for overseas doctors from 12 months to 6 months, provided they work in the public sector for 3 years. As Owen Fung reports, the association says this will help ease manpower shortage in the public sector.
With around 200 to 300 vacancies, doctors in public hospitals are in short supply. Today, the Hong Kong Medical Association announced a proposal which it believes could help ease manpower shortage in the public sector. Currently, doctors with overseas qualifications have to pass a licentiate exam and undertake a 12-month internship if they wish to practice in Hong Kong. But under the proposal by the Hong Kong Medical Association, overseas doctors can shorten the internship to 6 months on the condition that they work in public hospitals for 3 years. Upon completion of the 3-year contract, these doctors can then become fully licensed. But if any of them wishes to practice in the private sector, then he or she will need to complete the year-long internship before becoming fully licensed. President of the Medical Association, Louis Shi, said that some overseas doctors are reluctant to work as interns as the pay is low, while others are already specialists in their own countries. Shortening the internship period, therefore, should make it more attractive for overseas doctors to work in the public sector.
This policy, of course, is a temporary measure to solve the existing shortage of manpower in the hospital authority. This is not a long-term measure.
The association will submit the proposal to the Medical Council of Hong Kong, which will discuss the matter next month. Owen Fung, TVB News.
The Occupy movement has forced organizers of the Hong Kong Wine and Dine Festival to do some late scrambling. This year, the festival, which kicks off tomorrow, has moved from the central harborfront to the former Kai Tak Airport runway. Around 30 exhibitors dropped out of the festival after the venue change was announced. There are only 270 booths this time, compared with more than 300 in previous years. Some exhibitors are concerned about visitor flow, and many vendors have launched extra promotions and gimmicks to attract customers to their booths. The Tourism Board predicted a drop in visitors, but said the new location shouldn't have a major impact on the event. Free shuttle bus services will be provided to the event.
According to an annual report by the World Bank, Hong Kong is the 3rd easiest place to do business in the world. Hong Kong was ranked behind Singapore and New Zealand. The city's total score went up slightly from last year, meaning the business environment has improved. The SAR government welcomes the World Bank assessment as it affirms the government's efforts in facilitating businesses.
Right after the second of 2 Ebola-infected nurses was released from the hospital, U.S. President Barack Obama began criticizing certain states for enacting a 21-day quarantine for health workers returning from West Africa. While many U.S. leaders defend their right to protect their people, Obama said it discourages volunteers from fighting the epidemic.
I'm so grateful to be well, and first and foremost, I want to thank God. I sincerely believe that with God, all things are possible.
Obama spoke for the first time since the governors of New York and New Jersey began quarantining those who've had contact with Ebola patients in West Africa. The president criticized the policy as going beyond federal guidelines and said it only serves to deter those who would otherwise help to stop the spread of the outbreak.
And I want to make sure that every policy we put in place is supportive of their efforts, because if they are successful, then we're not going to have to worry about Ebola here at home.
Despite Obama's discouraging rhetoric for the safety of all Americans, the Pentagon announced it will continue its 21-day quarantining of all soldiers returning from West Africa.
And so the soldiers are doing great. We're not frustrated at all. Of course, we're soldiers, and so we're used to executing orders.
U.S. Envoy Samantha Power, who's now visiting Ebola hotspots in Africa, pledged more support from Americans and lauded those providing international help for making a big difference.
That is the path that I can commit to you on behalf of the President and on behalf of the American people, that we will work together to ensure that you get back on, and we will beat this epidemic together.
More Ebola relief is expected out of Switzerland. That's where the first trials of an experimental Ebola vaccine from GlaxoSmithKline will be put to good use.
We should get 101 vials for 100 subjects, and we hope to receive the vaccine tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, and to do the first injection on October 31st.
A group of Iraqi Kurdish Peshmerga fighters arrived in Turkey this morning, headed towards Syria to help in the fight against Islamic State militants. The 150 fighters are in transit towards Kobani, where Syrian Kurdish fighters are struggling to defend the strategic town against Islamic State militants. Weeks of U.S.-led airstrikes on the militants have failed to break the siege. The unprecedented mission comes after Ankara agreed to allow the Peshmerga fighters to cross through Turkey to reach Kobani, which is just across the border. Thousands of Turkish and Syrian Kurds gathered at the border crossing to cheer on the fighters. Last week, the Kurdish parliament in Erbil, Iraq, agreed to send Peshmerga troops to Syria.
Tens of thousands of protesters marched in the Hungarian capital of Budapest against a plan by the government to tax those using the internet. Last night's rally consisted of mostly younger citizens who are angry with Prime Minister Viktor Orban's policies of centralizing power and increasing the role of the state. They called on Orban to withdraw his plan to force internet service providers to pay a tax that amounts to about $3 a month for individuals and $21 per business. The government claims the measure aims to take a bite out of the telecommunications company's large profits and improve internet access in rural areas. Chris, what do you have for us in sports?
Well, we've got a Game 7 coming up in Major League Baseball. Don't get one of those every year. Game 6 of the World Series, and the Kansas City Royals routed the San Francisco Giants 10-zip, forcing that winner-take-all 7th game. And Jameson Wong has more.